Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of
The Happy Hippie Podcast.
I'm your host, Kylie Iris. And today we are going to talk all about empaths. So for starters, what is an empath? Basically, empaths can feel what other people are feeling on a deep level. Empaths are considered highly sensitive people, which to most of Western culture is seen as a con, but in reality, this is much of a pro, and I'll go over all the ins and outs of that in today's episode. Living in a world like this and being a highly sensitive person isn't always the easiest thing to do. In fact, some might deem it as slightly difficult, especially being an empath. Trying to navigate a world like this can be hard. So I bring to you guys this episode today to help out all my other fellow empaths out there. Empaths feel empathy to a very high degree, right? And this can come with a lot of pros, but it can also be a little bit overwhelming and hard to navigate. So today we're basically going to go over how to navigate being an empath, and most importantly, how to become an empowered empath. Definitely such thing as a dark empath, and that's kind of somebody who is an empath out of emotional balance. Now, when talking about empaths, it's really important to talk about how they are formed. How does someone become an empath? Empaths are mostly built from trauma, to be honest with you. Empaths are people that are born in highly chaotic families, usually with an unavailable parent, a dysfunctional parent, if you will. Why does dysfunctional childhoods breed empaths? Essentially, empaths' fight or flight was triggered on very early on in life. And it's almost like that sixth sense is developed through empaths because of survival reasons. They are constantly needing to become hyper attuned to the environment around them because of trauma, right? They need to know, am I safe? Is this person angry? Is this person depressed, upset? What is this person feeling? These are the kinds of things that goes through an empath's head fairly young because they are living in survival mode. So it is really dysfunctional families that breed empaths. A lot of empaths growing up get shamed for being quote unquote too sensitive. The Matrix that has programmed us to believe that sensitivity is a weakness, when in reality, sensitivity is one of the empath's biggest strengths. Sensitivity is actually a gift. And in today's episode, we're going to break down just why that is. Now, when talking about an empath, there really is two different types of empaths. There is the empowered empath and the dark empath. An empowered empath is grounded in their emotions and slightly tapped in to the world of energy, if you will. They're consciously aware of the fact that their emotions are a little bit more increased than the average individual, which can be a double-edged sword, right? Because you can feel so much deeper than the average human being on both light and dark aspects. Empaths can feel a high like no other human beings. They can feel their emotions to such a depth where there's extreme forms of ecstasy. However, there is in fact also the exact opposite of that. You know, a normal person being sad versus an empath being sad is like a depression pit like no other. You know, and that's where the dark empath versus the empowered empath comes into play. A dark empath is out of emotional balance. They are not really in control of their own emotions, let alone the emotions of other people, right? Because the purpose of an empath really is a deep inner need / feeling to help those around them. The empath is kind of like the savior. They want to save everybody. But with a dark empath, they kind of take on the responsibility of too many people. They want to save all kinds of people who don't really want to save themselves, thus for wasting their own prana, their life force energy, draining from other people. It can be quite the emotional, turbulent roller coaster for oneself. So let's talk about how one can become an empowered empath. Being able to feel the energy of the people around you can be both equally a blessing as a curse. An empath can walk into a room filled with people and literally feel the unresolved trauma and pain of the people around them. That's why it's important to set boundaries as an empath so you can live your day-to-day life without constantly feeling drained. And obviously this can be a blessing when you learn to kind of hone in and practice this skill where you can kind of turn it on and off, if you will. Constantly being able to absorb everyone's energy all the time can be a very, very draining thing. It can leave you constantly feeling fatigued and tired and drained almost all the time. It's important as an empath to set boundaries so you don't become overwhelmed all the time. And before we get into the understanding of learning how to set those boundaries, it's really important to understand the world of energy itself. You don't learn about the chakra systems in school, you know what I mean? But as an empath, it's really important to learn about the world of energy. It stems from the chakra system. Basically, the 7 chakras are the different energy points and systems located within your body. It starts at the base of your spine and goes all the way up to the top of your head. Each of the 7 chakras, it starts as the root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat chakra, third eye chakra, and crown chakra. Each chakra is a different color and holds a different purpose for a different area in your body. These 7 chakras control all of the energy basically entering and leaving your body. When empaths experience oversensitivity, it's usually because one or more of their chakras has blocked energy stored within it. Having wounded or blocked energy stored within your chakras is actually a pretty common thing for most empaths, because like I was saying earlier, most empaths are formed from trauma. And when we're speaking about trauma and early childhood experiences, the trauma of that is stored in your first chakra, your base chakra. This is your root. A lot of lower back pain and problems can also stem from this chakra. Becoming an empowered empath is really learning how to transmute and alchemize that stored energy within your root chakra from whatever trauma you've experienced. So in terms of clearing energy out of your chakras, for example, if you're trying to transmute trauma, doing root chakra focused meditations where you visualize your root chakra and the energy leaving that chakra through deep meditative states can kind of help you alchemize out that stale energy and start the transition of becoming an empowered empath. Dark empaths are really living in their lower chakras, right? Fear, anger, anxiety, these kinds of emotions are breeded from our lower chakras. When you elevate your frequency and raise your energy, you start operating from the higher chakras, right? Your crown, third eye, and throat chakra. These are connected to the higher realms, the spiritual realms, divine, source. They operate and work through your higher chakras. So dark empaths are usually operating from fear that is stored in their lower base chakra. Tight hips and lower back pain is really a symptom of energy being clogged up within your root chakra. For my fellow empaths out there, I highly, highly recommend doing root chakra yoga, root chakra guided meditations. When it comes to healing your energy, the very first place to start really is your root chakra. It's the first chakra, and it's kind of like the most important. Being highly emotional, being a highly sensitive human being also comes with gifts. For example, the gift of intuition. Intuition is the whisper of our soul. It is the whisper within our gut that just knows everything. It's a whisper from God. It's a whisper from the universe, from source. Whatever higher power you believe in, it is a direct connection to that. Intuition is the biggest gift that any empath holds, and it's a superpower. And the way your intuition is activated is your prana moving through your chakras, your life force energy easily being able to flow through your 7 chakra systems up into the ether. So developing your intuition is basically developing your communication system with the universe. And this is why it is so important to become an empowered empath, because having access to these kinds of gifts and being ungrounded is a recipe for disaster and horror and fear within your reality. So now let's talk a little bit about intuition. There is 4 different aspects to intuition. One is clairsentience, which is inner feeling. 2, clairvoyance, which is inner seeing. Number 3, clairaudience, inner hearing. And number 4 is claircognizance, which is inner knowing. These 4 collectively create intuition. It's a little bit different for each empath. Some empaths have one of the clairs, some have 2, whereas others have all 4. It's kind of really just depending on your journey as an empath, how evolved and empowered you are on your journey, navigating the world of psychic abilities, essentially. That's what those are. They're psychic abilities. Super important thing for empaths is learning how to cleanse your energy, right? Because empaths absorb the energy of other people constantly. And sometimes empaths can feel emotions that aren't even their own. There's many different ways you can cleanse your energy. You can use smoke. So you can do things such as sage, palo santo. Salt is also a really great cleanser. So having Epsom salt baths is a must. Me personally, like my number one grounding technique is salt bath. I have a salt bath almost every single night. When I come out of an Epsom salt bath, I literally feel reborn. Like I can feel all the energies being scrubbed out of my aura and I come out a different person. So I highly recommend salt baths. Another way to cleanse your energy field is obviously meditation. Visualizing while you meditate your auric field being cleansed and removing all that negative, unwanted energy and emotions that aren't yours to hold. You know, my fellow empaths out there, I feel for you. You shouldn't have to live your life being dragged down by the emotions of other people. So please, please, please cleanse your energy. It's also really important as an empath to stay grounded, right? Because with these kinds of different psychic abilities, your head can be up in the clouds. It can almost feel like you're floating out of this world, but it is so important to ground your energy here on Earth. The most effective grounding technique is nature, Mother Nature. Take off your shoes, take off your socks, and put your bare feet on the ground. Mother Nature is filled with positive ions of electricity that can enter your body through the soles of your feet. Have you ever wondered why hippies don't wear shoes? It's literally because they're absorbing free energy from the earth. There's a reason why shoes have a plastic bottom, because it's an insulator of electricity, right? The energy cannot flow from your feet to the earth with shoes on because plastic is an insulator. Like, put down your coffee, babe. Just take your socks off and step outside. Take a few deep breaths, doing deep inhales and deep exhales. And as you are standing on the grass barefoot, visualize the bottom of your feet growing roots like a tree. And with each breath you breathe in and exhale, feel the roots of your feet grow further and further into the ground, and literally visualize yourself like a tree growing the roots within the ground. These simple little grounding meditative practices will literally change your life because nature is so abundant and vibrant in energy, right? We can absorb this. And the reason why we cleanse our energy, the reason why we become grounded, the reason why we learn how to become an empowered empath is because there is an opposite side to this scale, right? We're talking about being an empowered empath, having psychic abilities, having control of your emotional state, but there really is a flip side to that. Like we were talking about earlier, being a dark empath. Dark empaths have a very blocked intuition, right? When you are living in fear and a lack mentality, a scarcity mindset, this actually blocks your intuition as an empath. Clairaudience, clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairsentience, you won't have access to that. Why we tap into the world of energy, right? To learn to alchemize that fear into love, into becoming the best version of ourselves, not only to help ourselves out, but to help all of humanity out, because empaths hold a great purpose on earth. They are given these gifts for no such reason. It's a superpower to have these kinds of abilities. And if you have these kinds of abilities, it should not be taken lightly. You need to take these things serious. It is your duty for both yourself and the greater good of humanity for you to step into your fullest potential. That's what it is to be an empath. They are the healers, people meant to energetically raise the vibrations back here on earth to escape fear, collectively transmute the energy to love, right? That is the mission of the empath, right? Because empaths are like a magnet for narcissists. Empaths are a magnet for unhealed people. Yes, it is to help heal the people who want to be healed, but also it's about healing ourselves. And within healing ourselves, that alone creates a ripple effect on the entire world. And healing your personal conditioning is what will shift the collective. Obviously, being a highly sensitive human being can come with a list of cons like anything else. It can be very, very difficult. The life path of an empath is not necessarily the easiest pathway to choose, but our soul chose this difficult family to incarnate in purposefully for the evolution of ourselves. When life feels kind of overwhelming and really difficult, just understand that your soul chose this path for a reason. And it may not be the easiest path, but it will be the most rewarding path, because empaths are the karma breakers. They're the generational curse breakers. They are the people healing humanity to shift the consciousness here on Earth, right? That is no small role. That is a huge role to fill. And I just want to say to any empath listening to this episode, thank you. Thank you for being you. The empaths don't hear it enough. They go through so much, they put up with so much, and they are doing the most here on this planet. So to my fellow empaths out there, I love you so much, and thank you for everything that you've done. Any person you've ever healed, both yourself and the ones surrounding you, thank you. Your help does not go unnoticed, and this will create a ripple effect within the universe. Empaths heal their inner divine feminine and masculine energy and step into the power of the divine feminine. When you step into your divine feminine energy, you are no longer chasing things in your life. You attract them to you. Human existence is based on many layers of conditioning that have allowed us to survive. These layers have been imprinted in our energetic system, forming embedded patterns. These patterns are both intricate, deep, and formed through many lifetimes. Life of an empath is shedding the layers and layers of conditioning that we have been put through for so many lifetimes. Fear and greed are what is ruling this world right now. So to my fellow empaths out there spreading love, light, and peace, I just want to give you a personal thank you. I am so grateful for you. The universe is grateful for you. You are an amazing human being. Don't stop being you. I also wanted to add a little bit about my own personal experience and how it was growing up as an empath. Obviously, as a child, I didn't have the knowledge that I have now to see things from the perspective I do at this moment. And it was in fact quite difficult growing up being a highly sensitive individual in a world like this. It was overwhelming to say the least. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about myself for a moment because I think it's funny. I think back on the way I used to be and I can't even picture that person. It's almost like it's a different person. Growing up, I was super Christian. I came from a very Christian family and I was very Christian growing up. I wasn't just like a Christian growing up. I was like a crazy Christian. Like I remember in elementary school, like whenever any of my friends would swear, I would start crying and pray to God because I was so fear-induced. I was a fear-induced Christian and I would visualize them burning in hell. And I would start crying and pray for God to forgive their sin. Every empath is a little different. Some of the clairs are developed for people throughout time, whereas certain sudden events kind of trigger a clair, if you will. What I mean by this is I had psychic abilities pretty young, and I didn't know how to navigate it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't come from a family who understood what that even meant or believed that was even real. And obviously, when you're a child, you believe the world is your oyster. Just that blind faith and optimism and belief system as a kid really shapes your reality, because as a kid, I was so receptive to this kind of thing because I believed it was real. I would be sitting in the living room, the doorknob in the living room basement would turn and open by itself on like a sunny day with no wind, but somehow it's just the wind. You know, there was always an excuse for every kind of paranormal thing or thing that didn't seem logical to my family. There was always a reasoning for what everything was. So I had psychic abilities pretty young. I think it also is from trauma, which is crazy, but the path of the enlightened is the path of karma. It is the path of sometimes difficult situations, because it's in difficult situations in life you really grow and evolve the most, especially spiritually, right? Like I literally died at 14 and came back to life. Like that's not a normal thing a lot of people experience, but I like had the gift and privilege of remembering after that experience. And that's kind of why I even have this podcast, was because I feel the need to share this information. I can't just like live with this in my head. I need to help other people like me out there. And I just know throughout time, empaths and light workers and healers are just gonna, the numbers are just gonna keep growing and growing and growing around the world as Earth evolves. I think I was maybe like 8, maybe 11, like I don't know, I was really young, and I had my first ever clairaudient experience. I'm talking about this so other young girls out there that are going through this can understand what it is, because I had no idea what this was, right? Modern society doesn't normalize this kind of behavior. Psychic abilities is not normal, quote unquote, which is hysterical because our timeline of history has been hidden from us. And there was a moment of our history before this current timeline in which every single human being was tapped into their psychic abilities. Every single human being was tapped into these kinds of abilities, and that's why they were able to co-create such amazing different kinds of technology that do not seem fathomable to our logical programmed mind, right? Because the Matrix has programmed us to think so logically because they don't want us to remember that this part of our psyche exists. Why would the government want us to know we all have psychic powers hidden within our DNA that we can activate? Like, fuck no, they don't want that. Why do you think they've altered our DNA? Anyways, I'm going down tangents. I gotta be careful what I say. When I was a child, it was more like paranormal experiences. I would knock on the wall and there would be a knock back. Like the lights would flicker, doors would close and open. I would have communication in the astral realms with people from the other side. Just these kinds of weird situations that I guess normal people don't really have. But I think every child goes through some kind of paranormal thing because they believe it's true, right? When you're so young, you believe everything. That's why paranormal things like reach out to children mostly, because they have the most receptive mind, because we've been so programmed by the Matrix to not even believe that this kind of world exists. The world of energy, the world of the other side, the veil, these kinds of things. But when you're an empath and you tap into the world of energy, you realize, oh my God, all of this is real. And it's earth-shattering at first, but then there's comfort in it along the way. Thank you guys for listening. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.